back again with Moms Coaching Moms, and we are in December. Like, oh my goodness. A couple weeks coming up to Christmas and the holidays when the kids are going to be off school as well. And I know that can be a really, I don't know. I think a lot of moms can look at that as a good or bad thing, which that's something that we talk about all the time here, is like trying not to make those judgments of good or bad. But I understand that when, you're used to a certain way of life, like life is just going, and, you have that schedule and stuff as well. And so for the next couple of weeks, we want to talk about how do we keep our health up, and we want to talk mentally, physically, and spiritually through the holidays. How do we do that? Because it can be a real challenge. And I know with COVID and everything, stuff has sort of slowed down more the last couple of years. So there's maybe not as many parties, maybe not as many like shows and pageants and whatever to be going to. However, there's still a lot. It's still a lot. And when the kids get off school, all of a sudden the whole schedule just changes, and, it can kind of go crazy. So this week we want to talk more specifically about how we can keep our mental health up. And I know that is an area that you are amazing in. And I don't say that lightly, as in just like, oh, it's all like so amazing and it's so easy and it's so good. The reason that I respect you so much in that is because you have dealt with so much for yourself, and it's like learned. Like, it's not, I mean, we all say that, like, we all know that, like, oh, like we look at an athlete and go, oh, well, yeah, like they're really good because they've put the hours in. Well, what I never realized, and what I don't think actually probably a lot of the world even realizes yet, is like mental health is still the same. Uh-huh. It's the same thing as physical health in that realm, is that It takes work. It takes going through breaks and going through like mental breaks, like the physical break. We have a physical break in our body. Well, you go, oh, well, I have to slow down. Well, there are mental breaks too that happen, that we have to slow down. There's like stress and all of that. And so like, I don't want it to come across like it's just this like, oh, like, yeah, it's so easy. Like, I know it hasn't been at all.
Has not.
And that is why it's such a huge strength for you. And that's, I know that's why, like, I'm learning all the time, because for me, like when we started talking about like, oh, we should talk about mental health, I'm like, I never thought about my mental health over the holidays. Not ever. I don't ever remember thinking about my mental health. I think about my physical health, like, oh, okay, like when I was different time in life, like, I would keep up my workouts out and, like, okay, I'm not going to eat all this like sugar stuff, and like, but mental health is no different, really.
Yeah.
So for you, because this is something that you have learned and are, in a very different place than me. Like me, I'm just really, honestly, just starting to think about like the mental health.
Yeah.
And in some ways it's been completely forced on me and my kids. However, we are learning, and I'm always learning a lot from you. So
yeah, mental health has definitely been something for many, many years. So my first clinical depression was back in '99, where I was not in a good space at all, and it actually came about right around this time of year, and so things were starting my mental journey. It's hard to believe that it was literally over 20 years ago. And throughout the time, and then, It was Christmas of 2001 where I had a psychosis and I was in and out of the hospital. And so that year as well was a very, very hard time. And the hard becomes magnified because it's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year. And, I love the Christmas movies where it shows, people not having the most wonderful time of the year. And people are like, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Exactly. And you're like, so that was again another shift for me. And then truthfully, it wasn't until we moved out of Alberta and into our own, we were all alone out here in Vancouver. And so that just started a whole different part of how do you manage your mental health and your family. Because it's not just about you. And that's sort of one of the things where we go back and forth between, it starts with us as moms. And the truth is that trickles down to our families. We have a responsibility to that. And whatever that journey looks like, it is different for all of us. For me, it meant that the expectations that I had for the kind of holidays that I wanted for my family had to be trimmed back. They had to, for my own mental health and the ability then that I could be present for my family. And so the one year I remember very, very well, the only thing that we had put up for Christmas was the tree, no decorations, and the stockings came out for the kids. That's it. There was no garland. There was no extra lights. There was no decorating. There was, none of the knickknacks. There was nothing. And the thing that the kids remember, I didn't even play Christmas music, which is crazy to look back on. Yeah. However, mentally, I could not wrap my brain around it. Christmas dinner was literally shake and bake chicken and a salad because it's all that we could do. And by we, I mean me. And my husband is a very supportive man. He was one that did the Christmas shopping that year and the wrapping, because again, I was incapable. And so how do you look after your mental health? For me, I needed to ask for help. I needed to say, I can't do this.
And that can be so hard as a mom.
So hard as a mom.
Oh, I feel it.
And I could not do it. And so for me, that is probably one of the biggest things that I've learned. And I still learn it in different areas. It is really, really hard for us to admit when we need help. It is really hard for us to admit when, okay, I'm going to need support on this, because we sort of have. I can't do this. I can't do it. Please help me.
Yeah. It's not a failure. It's not a good or bad thing.
That's right.
We as moms kind of, we go to that constantly, good or bad. I got to give my kids this, I got to do this for my kids. That was me. I would do stuff for my kids. For me, never thought about it.
And see, and I think what I believe, because it, what I believe that was the catalyst for, was that after that, at different times, both of my kids had significant mental health challenges, and they were able to tell me.
Yeah.
It was an open thing in our home because I was open about it. Right. I did not hide my mental health struggles from my family. They knew. They knew if I had to go into the hospital. They knew if I had to, stay in bed for a day. They knew that I had to take medication, or if I didn't, whatever it was, I talked about it. I talked about what was going on. Now, obviously it needed to be age appropriate depending on how old the kids were. And what that gave us was a platform to be able to discuss mental health.
That's amazing.
And what I want to say with that is that both of my kids have struggled with mental health. And one of them ended up in the hospital after an attempt on her life. So it's not that it changed that then, oh, mental health didn't become an issue. It is an issue. Our family has a lot of mental health struggles, and it just sometimes seems to be magnified around holiday time. And I do believe that part of that is this whole commercialized part of it. There's pressure, and we all feel it. And funny enough, all of us in this family, that's our least favorite song. It is not necessarily the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah,
sometimes it's sad. Sometimes it's emotional. And so what do we do about that? You come together. That is what we do. We navigate this together. And sometimes our holidays have been really, really quiet. Sometimes we fit in 20 different activities. Sometimes, like, we have some very close friends out here that are like family, and we usually get together with them all the holidays. COVID kind of stopped that last year, and we all felt it. All of a sudden, we weren't able to meet with them, and we got used to spending Christmas and New Year's with them.
Right.
And yet there were times when we weren't able to because mentally we couldn't do it. And we need to be able to talk about that. Mental health is a very serious thing, and it's magnified quite often at this time of the year. And I think actually more around the Christmas season than any other holiday season.
Yeah, true.
And it just is. And so
well,
if we
like
can
a lot more
infuse
expectations
absolutely
around Christmas holidays, usually expectations that because they're family, you have to get with them because, you know,
whatever it is.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what it is. It's about being really honest about where you're at. It's about connecting where you're at. It's about allowing, and now with this idea of infusing joy, it gives us that opportunity to say, okay, this is where I'm at. And for people to be able to come along. And sometimes it is amazing that when people come alongside you in where you're at, you're able to do more.
Yeah.
You're able to be more present. Maybe you're able to leave the house. Maybe you're able to, you know, the adventures we've had on, you know, mountains out here. They have like mountaintop Christmas and whatever that you can go and experience. And the difference between being able to say where you're at versus not. One particular Christmas, one of our, we were struggling. And because we were able to say that, we ended up doing the mountaintop Christmas that year. Because we were able to say, this is where I'm at. And the rest of us like, okay, what do you need? Right. And what they wanted was to go lie in the snow on top of the mountain. Done deal.
Beautiful.
So it just is really that it's such an important thing. Where are you? What do you need? And what do you need from me?
Yeah.
And sometimes being able to say, what do you need from me? And you tell me, and I can say, I'm not able to do that. How about this? It's all about that dialogic. We should never feel like just because someone needs something of us that we have to do it. Maybe we're not able to either. And that's where the conversation comes. We're not going to know unless we talk about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's something like just as you were talking and stuff too, like, you know, there was a lot of, you know, I mean, my thinking was always that it's always about everybody else. You know, it's how I grew up. It was just a belief system that I grew up with that, you know, it other people always matter. And I'm here for everyone else and whatever. And unfortunately, that's how I raised my kids too. Was like, I know there were times that I was like, okay, we just got to push through. We just have to do this for this person or for that. And now I think very differently. Like, I would do things so differently because it was not healthy.
Yeah.
It was not healthy, and specifically mentally. And I see damage and trauma and hurts and stories that were created that didn't need to be created.
Yeah.
Now,
Totally.
it is what it is. That happened. I get that. And now I know, one of my favorite sayings is, when I know better, I will do better. And, or when I know different, I will do different. Maybe that's a little better way of putting it, actually. But for me, it's like, as I learn, then I can change things. I can't change like that. I made decisions that, hurt myself, hurt my kids like in the past. I can change and make decisions differently now. And I think one thing, especially as a mom, that we need to hear is it is not selfish to take care of yourself.
And it's okay to ask for help. It is truly healthy to ask for help and to say,
and if you can't do it for yourself, think about who's watching you. Because do it for yourself. But even if you have to do it because okay, I know this will help my kids down the road. If you have to start there, even that's okay. Because our kids follow the patterns that we created.
Yeah.
So, I love hearing your stories because of, your kids being able to talk about that. Now in my home, we are able to talk about that more now. We have a lot of mental health challenges in our home now. A lot. Everyone's dealing with stuff. And I know we're not the only ones. I know this isn't new. And I know COVID really exacerbated so much of that and brought so much of it out, which I think was fantastic in a way. It was a blessing because I think mental health did need to just sort of blow up and get talked about so much more. Yet we do need the strategies. We need to be able to have the conversations, the dialogue, all of that to be able to, take care of ourselves, ask for help when we need, and do what we need. So
totally.
Hopefully some of these ideas helped. If you have other ideas, again, definitely let us know because, we want to, this month we're talking about infusing joy into the holidays. And, this was about mental health. We have physical and spiritual coming up as well. And so with that, again, Wednesday nights are NJAM Conversations through until we're taking 2 weeks off. December 29th and January 5th we'll be taking off, but we have plans for videos to be out still. And then in the new year, we also have the special group coaching sessions that we are putting together for moms who want to go to another level, want to maybe deal with some stuff, want to maybe heal some wounds, want to, whatever that is for you. But we have some very special times coming up that will be starting in January. Otherwise, all our social media will all be linked and everything to this. And so moms, we'll see you Wednesday nights. Everyone else, well, we're back again with another video next week.